Hey, gorgeous people. Happy Monday morning, September 8th. Welcome to this gorgeous little week between that lunar eclipse in Pisces, headed into the solar eclipse in Virgo. We have one blessed little transit, a streak of optimism in this Mercury cazimi that is happening this week. Amid all of the tense and turbulent stuff that's happening in Virgo, we have this glinting little gem in the sand that we're going to sift through and see what it has in store for us. I also have a surprise little video dropping for you guys later this week, so keep your eyes peeled. Might be something fun coming up on my channel. Make sure you come back Friday afternoon, September 12th, because I have something kind of fun going on that I think you guys are really gonna like. I'm Alexandra Blair of 9 Lives Astrology, your fearless host, here as always to help you drag astrology out of these dusty old textbooks behind my head, bring it into your bones, into something lived in, timing you can trust. Astrology for your everyday life, that's our goal here. And we're going to ground that in stories, art, archetypes, and personal mythologies that you're already living. We're going to get into this one single lone transit that we have this week. But first, I like to start the show with some of my favorite comments from the week prior. Okay, lots of people celebrating my 6-month anniversary on YouTube, and I really appreciated that. I also got a lot of DMs and comments from people talking about how they're working with music since I shared that on last week's show, working with music that came out during previous eclipse cycles. I'm getting a lot of indie sleaze from you guys. I'm getting LCD Sound System, I'm getting Arcade Fire. I'm wondering if we're due for an indie sleaze revival now that these eclipses are back in Pisces and Virgo. I also got several comments about the story that I shared about Saturn coming back into my Pisces third house and being sort of resistant to a daily set schedule. My chart is very solar. I'm a very solar person, but I have a Cancer moon, so I'm also very cyclical and rhythmic, and the solar stuff just doesn't totally always work for me. Becky Becker agreed and says, Ohio, purple hair, tattoo, 64 on the 5th. Cancer moon, Libra rising. ADHD artist, I officially started my new online social media art business, Presence on the Black Moon, a week ago. I've always wanted to be a full-time artist, lifetime hairdresser. I love the way you spoke about your writing. As an ADHD artist, I can't relate at all to scheduled creative time. It's asking my overdeveloped right brain to perform in a left brain manner. However, right now, I've been working on this project of producing art, learning new techniques, and making myself figure out the things media-wise that I don't understand every day. I'm determined to take advantage of all these amazing aspects this month. Just found your channel, really enjoy you. Thanks. Well, thank you for being here, Becky, and I'm wishing you the best of luck. Definitely comment and let us know how we can support your artist site and see what you've got going on. But I definitely agree, as a lunar person, the solar cycles just don't work for me. And it's something that's really interesting to think about because, as I mentioned, my chart is really solar. So I've been trying to toy with that in all kinds of interesting ways. Like lately, I've been waking up before the sun. So I'm still getting that lunar nocturnal energy, but it's actually really activating my Cap rising and my solar stuff in a really fulfilling way. So I loved hearing from you guys about all the different ways that you are trying to play with writing and creating and making art and making all of that into a routine. And I'm going to share with you guys 3 little books that have been really instrumental in my life and also in other people's lives. This one is called Making Time for Creativity by Brandon Stosoy. And it's honestly like a really cool aesthetic, design forward way of just thinking about creativity and how to make time for it in your life. I just started this one recently and it honestly has already gotten my brain spinning. It was actually just reading this that gave me the permission that I shared on last week's show to actually call myself a writer. Another classic option would be The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's a classic for a reason. I confess I've never made it completely through this book. The pieces that find me always seem to find me right when I need them. But someday I am determined to live this book to the letter of the law and actually do her 12-week program. Lots of different artists have done it and talked about it. So that's a classic. And then finally, I don't have it here at my desk, but this is kind of like a corny little book that has just really helped me unlock myself on days when I'm feeling stuck, but I want to do something creative. I use this 365 days of creativity. There's different versions of this. There's 365 days of drawing. And then also there's a free version of this you can do where you just challenge yourself to do something creative every day. I do something like that in a collage diary that I have. So sometimes I don't feel like digging out the book and I just make a collage for the day. And that's my creative thing. Kind of seemed corny, but I actually found it at the Tate Modern in London. And so it felt like, okay, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to do this corny little thing and it's going to inspire me. And it actually did really work. All right, guys, let's get into the transits. or should I say transit, because we have one lonely transit this week on Saturday, September 13th. Mercury and the sun will conjoin at 20 degrees of Virgo. So this is a nice little chill week that we have between these two eclipses. We talked last week about the Pisces lunar eclipse. Next week, we're going to talk about the spicy little Virgo solar eclipse, and a little teaser trailer. I actually may have some horoscopes, some uncharacteristic little horoscopes coming for you next week. Now, in honor of this week's Mercury cazimi, I just wanted to kind of talk for a minute about what the hell a Mercury cazimi really is, because I think people have a lot of mistaken ideas about what a Mercury cazimi is and what it means. First things first, the word cazimi is actually an Arabic root word that means in the heart of specifically the sun. So when we talk about a conjunction, that's when two planets are forming a bodily union at one point of the zodiac. They are in the exact same spot. Now that's what's happening with a cazimi, but the word cazimi implies that one of those two planets is the sun. Now, the sun has special rules and orbs of engagement. It is not like the other planets, whereas with the other planets, you might look for like a 3-degree orb, meaning any planet within 3 degrees of another planet is considered conjunct. The sun has different rules and it has different ranges. So we can consider a planet to be under the beams of the sun, which means that it's not visible because the sun is actually burning it up with its light. That leads into a condition called combustion in astrology, where the sun is kind of burning up another planet. And then we get into the conjunction range and the cazimi range, which is the tightest of them all. So for the purpose of transits, which we're talking about on this show, we are talking about the moment of exactitude where Mercury is exactly conjunct the sun, which is happening at 5:51 a.m. Central Time on September 13th. Now, what is a cazimi good for? Natally, it has all kinds of fun significations, but in terms of transits, I think that people often think about cazimis as this moment where they might receive some incredible news or some big download. And a lot of people go through the week of a cazimi expecting a really big event or revelation to be happening to them. Now, that could be true in some cases, particularly if you have placements around 21 Virgo, maybe even around 21 Pisces. Also, if Mercury is your time lord for the year, you guys might remember I did a video a few weeks back where I told everybody who their time lord was. And I'm working on another video about how to help you guys find out your time lord at any day and time. But if Mercury is your ruler for the year, so if you are in a Gemini perfected year or a Virgo perfected year, this might be more significant. And this might actually be associated with some kind of event. But what I find more often than not with a Mercury cazimi is a field of consciousness that makes it more possible for us to be curious, to be intellectual, to be probing into the things that are represented by the sign that the cazimi is happening in. Now, this cazimi is happening in Mercury's domicile and the sign of Mercury's exaltation. Virgo is the only place in the zodiac where the planetary ruler is also the exaltation ruler. Mercury loves being in Virgo. Mercury is very singular in Virgo. So this might be an especially empowered little happening at 21 Virgo. So here are some ideas about how you can use this Mercury cazimi energy. Now, we talked last week about listening to music that is associated with eclipse cycles, but this could be a good week for that too, particularly for the eclipse in Virgo that's happening next week. But using any medium, whether that's art, story, music, film, conversation, walking, physical exercise, food, cooking, anything you can think of, and actually just calling your brain into presence before you begin it and saying, I want to receive what I need to receive from this, or giving yourself this practice of being open during that time. We talked a couple weeks ago about having sacred messiness time. That could actually also be a really good idea for this, just freeing your mind and doing some automatic writing or drawing or some channeled writing or drawing or dancing or singing. This could be a really good time for that. What we want to do is like prioritize the strengths that are implied by the sign and the planets involved. In this case, it's solar. It's feeding our heart. It's feeding our vitality. It's feeding our passion and our purpose. We also have Mercury, which is creative, intellectual. It's striving and striding in Virgo. It is editorial. It is specific. It might be a little neurotic in the fun way. And we're blending that all up in the sign of Virgo, which is very specific. It is very health oriented, and it is the magical, alchemical, feminine magician expression of Mercury. So there's a lot to do with personal ritual and personal preference and personal discretion and discernment implied in this sign. So if you're wanting to work with this cazimi energy, I would recommend, firstly and foremostly, probably the easiest thing you can do is just break out a journal, even if you're not in the habit of it, and scroll down some things that you are thinking of or that are coming up for you this week. Now, that might be in dreams, impressions, conversations you're having with others, places you walked that you didn't expect. It's never a bad time to remind you guys that so much of astrology is actually just diligent journaling. And it doesn't have to be pretty and it doesn't have to be involved, and nobody's going to read it when you die. It just has to happen. Now, a huge part of what's coming up with this Virgo eclipse is maybe some tough conversations and some areas of our life where we're going to have to suck it up and just do what we know we need to do. This Mercury cazimi might be a really good time to actually put that out there. And regardless of whether you send that text to that person you know you need to send a boundary with or not, you can plant a really small seed. You could actually just do a little bit of writing about it or rehearse the conversation or boot up your BFF chat GPT and go back and forth with chat GPT and plan out what you're going to say. This could be a really good time for any of that, including a more formal election where you're kind of launching something or putting it out into the world. Okay, on this tiny little show, we've officially reached the portion where I talk about how I, as a pagan astrologer, animist lady, am going to be using the astrology of this week. I love Mercury cazimis. I always try my best to write in my journal on a Mercury cazimi day. It doesn't always happen, but it's interesting because whenever eclipses or significant events happen later at that same degree, I go back and I look at my journal from that cazimi, and there's some really interesting time dilation that happens around these Mercury cazimis where I'm sort of like reading wisdom from myself in the past that's then affecting me in the future. I always find Mercury cazimis to be time dilate-y in general, so I will definitely go back and visit old art or old writings or old photographs that seem to correspond with important times that work with that astrological house. So this week, I'm definitely going to write in my journal about this Mercury cazimi. These eclipses and all this stuff is actually happening across my third, ninth house axis. So I'm also thinking about my daily routines and the ways that my philosophical considerations about the world and my paradigm define my daily routines. So I might be doing some specific writing about that and teasing out and trying to redevelop some of my routinized stuff. Particularly my early mornings, because I have a young baby. I've been waking up before the sun to try to get some things done before he's awake and harassing me. I've tried systems like the Miracle Morning and I like that, but I really want to make it feel like a lived in fit for my own personal philosophies and ideas and paradigms about the world. And then something I always do during Virgo and Gemini seasons is that I like to take walks to places that I don't normally go. Usually this is just a neighborhood I don't normally visit in my city, or sometimes it involves like an hour drive to a nearby city and I go for a walk somewhere there. But I feel like there's something so mercurial about a good wander with no explicit goal and just keeping my eyes and ears and heart open along the way. I always find what I'm meant to find around these Mercury cazimi days. Don't forget that Wednesday is Mercury's planetary day, and Wednesday is close enough to this cazimi that I think if you did some kind of offering to Mercury, I usually offer coins or black coffee, you might be able to get some really cool downloads. I know that in a recent class that I took with astrologer Greg Crawford, who is an incredible teacher, by the way, he also recommended using cazimi days with any of the planets as days to explore those planets and their cycles in sort of a scholarly way. So during the Mercury retrograde cazimi, I actually did use that field to kind of investigate Mercury in the secondary progressions world and what my Mercury cycle and relationship had been. And I had some really, really fascinating insight that seemed closer to me than they otherwise would have been because I was doing it right around the time of that Mercury retrograde cazimi. So if you are studying astrology, this could also be a really good time to dive into your relationship with Mercury, your natal relationship with Mercury, or maybe just Mercury transits in general. All right, gorgeous people, you know what that sound means. My coffee is over. And so this short and sweet little snappy Mercury cazimi episode is also over. Make sure to let me know how you use this week. How are you feeling? How is the cazimi showing up for you? Do you journal astrologically? Are you good at journaling astrologically, or maybe wish you were better? Let me know everything. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday. Make sure you come back Friday for the premiere of a very special series I am beginning. You guys are going to like it. I'll also be back on Monday with a special episode of First Light. I may or may not have a guest. We may or may not be doing horoscopes. Alexandra doing horoscopes. It might be real on Monday. I'll see you then.